Hello, I'm John Hood, your host for this series, Murfreesboro Storytellers, a Bicentennial Celebration. This final of our 13 programs will feature Our Future. This hour-long program originates from the Visitor Center of the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce, 3050 Medical Center Parkway. Our guests for the program are the Honorable Tommy Bragg, Mayor, City of Murfreesboro, Dr. Sidney A. McPhee, 10th President, Middle Tennessee State University, Dr. Linda Arms Gilbert, Director, Murfreesboro City Schools, Mr. Paul Latture, President, Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce, and Mr. Roger Haley, Retired City Manager, City of Murfreesboro. Mayor Bragg, you came up with a 13-month celebration, and we're now in the final month, if you will.
Well, I wanted an exceptional time for all our community to come together, and so many times we set a date, and before we even get past the date, everybody says, well, I didn't know anything about it. Let's figure out what we need to do. So I gave us all a lot of time and an October to October time frame to give folks an opportunity to think about the bicentennial, maybe think about some kind of celebration in their own way. Just seemed like a good way to do it. And I think it's worked out very well, John. And this Storyteller series has really been an exceptional part of it. I want to thank you on camera for what you've done, certainly across the community all those years, but especially in the 13 months.
Well, thank you. It's been a real joy. We've talked about our heritage, our beginnings, our teachers, our healers, our people, our military, our faith, our arts and architecture, our rivers, roads, rails, and trails.
Right.
Our music, our stories, our work, and now we're down to our future. I couldn't help but to refer to something that Josephine Neal Wallen had written back around 1942 called Murfreesboro. I believe this was Kruger Wallen's wife. It was one of our educators at the time. And as I think back to 1942 and 2012 in the future, let's listen to Josephine. Unrivaled bucket maker of the world, our cedar strong scented, beautifully burled, milker of contented cows with bags of gold. We can't make buckets fast enough to hold. The cascade of warm streams foaming in the pail, swift and white and loud and clean as hail. Churner of butter and ice cream maker, breeder of walking horses and bread baker. A gardener, a grinder, a grister of grain, a gleaner of gossip along East Main. She's black faces against Snowsoft's cotton. She's the heroes of Stone's River, unforgotten. A stalwart son hearkening to war's outcry, saddling the sea with ships climbing the sky. A farmer with dirt furrows in his face, a merchant with a clean smile stitched in place. A dairyman daubed and dappled with milk, a hussy strutting in imitation silk. She's corridors of maples gracefully arched, and homes that stood proud when Yankees marched. She's cedar and cotton, sweet milk and sweat, a monument to the Old South, lest we forget. A southern lady with church spires for a crown. This is Murfreesboro, this is our town. And that's the Murfreesboro I grew up knowing back in the 30s and 40s and what it's developed into today. What would Tommy Martin, Al Mifflin, and Jack McFarland say if they were here today to see Murfreesboro today?
Well, I think it's exceptional that you mention those people because they were creators. They were people who worked to build a sense of community and make us look forward. And that's what we all do is, I think, make decisions for tomorrow because all the decisions we enjoy today have been made. And one of the nicest things I think about Murfreesboro is we've been able to look to the future, and I'm interested to hear what the others say today about it because education is such a huge part, economic development, building infrastructure, having a vision for tomorrow, and so I'm really excited about this opportunity to talk about our future.
And here we are in the Tommy Martin Visitor Center of the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center, which is a wonderful addition to our community. Middle Tennessee State University has just celebrated its centennial, its 100th anniversary. Dr. Sidney McPhee, it's been quite a year for MTSU.
It certainly has. And it reminds me of the saying, those of us in higher education and in economic development, there's really no great city without a great university. And I would say there's no great university without a great city. And
great combination.
There's this great tradition of the partnership, the tongue and gown relationship between Middle Tennessee State University and the city of Murfreesboro and this county. I think it's a model that has been emulated around the country, and we just concluded a few months ago 100 years celebrating the centennial, and the growth of the university really reflects the growth of this city and this community. we're very pleased to be a part of this community.
What do you see for the future for MTSU? Will it continue to grow as it has in the past several years?
I think, like the city, you will see measured growth, strategic growth. We have developed a very effective partnership in determining the needs, the 21st century needs of this city and this region, and the development of academic programs tied to the workforce needs for this region. I'm very pleased that the university has been a great partner with the Chamber and the whole very successful initiative destination, Rutherford, in helping to provide its expertise in providing information about jobs of the future, and then determining how we meet those needs through education and other training initiatives. So yes, I think you'll see measured growth, not only in the student enrollment, but you'll see it in the academic programs, and those academic programs will be tied to the needs of this region as we go out and attract business and industries for the 21st century.
And as far as physical growth, MTSU has been very fortunate to have had a lot of acreage, going back to, I guess, Mr. Andrew L. Todd Sr. and others that caused MTSU to be located here initially. So that's been a good fortune for you.
It really has. And unlike many other large institutions where those institutions are landlocked, we've been very fortunate in having a space to grow. Now, we're catching up because over the last 15 or 20 years, the university's exploded in its enrollment. And the facilities have not really matched that growth. And we are at the stage now, we're taking a breather. We've actually capped our enrollment, and you'll perhaps see for the next year or two just a slowing of that growth as we catch up in many other areas, in our facilities, in the resources that are allocated to develop and create this great university. And so I think that the future's, no question, very exciting for us. We have a wonderful community. Our school system is producing very talented and bright young people. And I'm pleased as president that MTSU is retaining the majority of those bright students coming out of the school system. They're staying here at home, because we do know that from experience and from the statistics, students that attend this university stay when they graduate and become a part of the workforce and become a part of the solution that this community is needed.
How will the Complete College Tennessee Act affect enrollment in the future? The emphasis is going to be more on outcomes rather than input, isn't it?
Yes, I really don't see any major adverse impact we're very supportive of the Complete College Act of Tennessee as it relates to helping to improve graduation and retention rates. I think all universities should be in the business of retaining and graduating their students. So on the positive side, I think the community will benefit as more students are retained and graduate. We are still the #1 producer of graduates for the Middle Tennessee area, compared to any public or private university. And for the state, next to the University of Tennessee, and you add in with the University of Tennessee, they have a medical school, they have a law school, they have many professional schools. We're right below the University of Tennessee being the largest producer of graduates in the state for all universities, public and private. And so with the push from this Complete College Act of Tennessee of producing more graduates, we just see that number going up. And I think my friends in the industry, the business and industry area, will be very pleased as we produce more, particularly high-tech graduates in the sciences, the STEM area. That is why it was so important that we got funding for the science building to continue to produce individuals who will be part of the workforce, particularly in the science and engineering areas.
An additional comment about physical facilities. You mentioned the science building under construction.
Yes. We are, I said several years ago that it was shovel ready, and we were so pleased when the governor and through the General Assembly, and certainly support from our legislative delegation, appropriated the funds in April. We are now, as you drive around campus, dirt is moving, and soon you will see that structure beginning to emerge. It is a 2.5 year construction project, but that is going to be a welcome addition to this campus, and it will put us in a position of attracting some of the best and brightest, not only in the state of Tennessee, but from the regions, other states, surrounding states, and internationally. It is going to be an absolutely fabulous facility that will attract top-notch students, that the potential of them staying in this region once they graduate, as I said earlier, is going to be very good. We're also excited just opening up our new student union that was officially opened on Friday of this past week, a sorely needed facility. The old facility, the KUC, was built in '67 when we had 7,000 students. We're now a campus of 27,000 students, and that's been another welcome addition to our campus.
Dr. Linda Arms Gilbert, we're pleased to have you, Director of the City School System for Murfreesboro, native of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. Tell us about the Murfreesboro City Schools and how it interacts with MTSU, but what it does for our community and preparing our students for the future.
Well, I think it's interesting that the two gentlemen have already used two words that I think are really important. One is partner, the other was create, because really our job is to produce creative, innovative folks that can look to the future. It no longer is about being able to regurgitate, but it is about being able to think, because what we know is the computer has really replaced in many ways the routine operations that we would have and what the brain to some extent would do. But certainly our partnership with MTSU is just splendid, and I can't thank MTSU enough for the influence they have on us. Most of our teachers come from MTSU, and really my job is to make sure that our 4-year-olds and our 5-year-olds can look beyond high school and can see post-secondary, so that they look to MTSU, they look to the workforce, and to make sure that we're workforce ready. So the idea of how do we produce creative individuals, how do we produce innovative individuals that can take teamwork and can take adaptability into the workforce is really something even at the pre-K 6 level that we're very interested in, and certainly the partnership with MTSU, partnership with the Chamber, and what we see as far as business and leadership have just been critical to us.
The year 2012 that we're in now, what is the enrollment in the Murfreesboro City School System?
We're at about 7,200 K-6 and another 400 pre-K.
Okay. Do you see the system expanding to additional grades?
Well, not right now. I think we're trying to handle what we are doing, and I think we're handling it very well. I think what we do want is an expansion, again, with the partnership. I want our principals talking with business leaders so that we understand what their needs are, because my argument is that if we're going to have post-secondary interest in the sciences, in the STEM, then the love for that has to happen at the grade levels where we are right now. If we don't have our 6th graders interested in science, interested in math, and capable of performing what we need for them to perform, then it really damages not only MTSU, but it damages the future of the community, and we're very aware of that.
I know the city school system at one time was K through 8, and it was an effort to combine the two systems, Rutherford County and the city of Murfreesboro, and the city, I believe, gave up 7th and 8th, and, but that's about where it stopped, and it's done well since then.
Right, and we have a great relationship with the county. I'm talking with Don Odom and some of his folks on a weekly basis, and so we have a very good relationship with them. A lot of what's happening in education is being driven by the state and really by the nation when we look at Common Core and a consistent curriculum across the United States. So that partnership is very strong with the county, and I appreciate very much what they do.
Yeah, very good. Well, we've come a long way from the beginning of the city of Murfreesboro 200 years ago, and we're sitting right in the heart of some interesting developments here with the Medical Center Parkway, the Avenue. Roger Haley, former city manager of the city of Murfreesboro, is with us today. Roger, you were city manager for how many years?
28.
28 years. You were on city council?
21.
On city council before then, as I recall.
That's correct. And
certainly have served the city well. How did all of this come about? Was it an idea that you or somebody had, or did you work it out on paper? How did it develop? It's just amazing how we've come along in the city.
John, the development area that we're sitting in now came about with a lot of vision and work from, really there were three of us that tried to determine what direction we needed to go in and what was the next step that needed to take place in moving Murfreesboro forward for retail space, office development, tourism, hotel development. And some of you may recall 12, 14 years ago, there was a real effort put forth to try to see a hotel convention center built in Murfreesboro. And the thought at that time was to tie it in with Old Fort Golf Course, which lays on the opposite side of Stones River from where we are now. Well, the decision, or the course was to try to expand the golf course, have a hotel conference center built that could use golf as an attraction, as one of the attractions in trying to bring conventions and conferences to Murfreesboro. Through several years of dreaming and study, there were just too many obstacles in our way. That wasn't going to work. And I remember I went to bed one night, and I woke up about 3:30 in the morning, and I sat straight up in bed, and I went straight to the phone, and I called Joe Jackson. Joe was mayor at the time, and he answered the phone sleepy, and I said, "Mayor, Cracker Barrel opens at 6:30 in the morning, meet me there." And he wanted to know what was going on. I said, "Just meet me at the Cracker Barrel at 6:30. So I hung up, he said he would. I hung up, I called Tom Reed. Tom was city attorney at the time, and told Tom the same thing. Well, Tom said a little more than the mayor did, but he finally consented to come. We met at Cracker Barrel at 6:30 that morning, and I drew out on a napkin. I said, "Boys, we've been trying to limit ourselves in what we are attempting to do. But a key to this is the interstate. And we've got to get from Broad Street to the interstate with whatever and wherever this development is going to go." Okay. Also, there was another key player. Mr. Tom Lane and his family owned this property that this building is on. And I said, I'd been trying for years for Mr. Lane, working with Mr. Lane to get him to give the city the right of way to build what is now Medical Center Parkway through his property.
How much acreage is involved?
Well, Mr. Tom, I believe the farm was about 385 acres, and we needed about 18 acres through his property for Medical Center Parkway. And if we were going to build it to the width that we built it and have it appear like it now appears. And Mr. Lane consistently said no. So I said, another key to this is we've got to forget trying to get Mr. Lane to give us that property. We're just going to have to condemn it. And they agreed. So that was the beginnings of what we now have. And I remember the public hearings, Mayor, that preceded you on the council. One of the charges from the mayor and council was for the current city manager, Mr. Lyons, and I to come up with a 20-year recovery of the city's investment in this property and roads and infrastructure. Well, we were very conservative, and I believe in the first 20 years we estimated that the city could sell $4.5 million worth of property that we had to buy. Long story short, in the first 7 years of ownership, the city recovered 100% of its investment, still has acreage for sale, still has 2 nice corporate sites available for companies that might want to move here, and with the help of the chamber and the industrial recruitment effort of the chamber, I see that coming to pass sometime in the future.
Very good. Well,
But
it's certainly,
it all came down to we were trying to put square pegs in round holes, and that didn't work. So we just had to cut out some new holes and move forward.
with the retail development we've enjoyed in this area, this has really put us ahead of a lot of communities during these troubled economic times, as I recall.
The avenues turned out to be a final key and not the final, but a big step in the key to the tax revenue, sales tax revenue situation for this community. And Linda touched on it a moment ago, partnership. And this development allowed Murfreesboro to partner with MTSU Dr. McPhee a number of years ago on the completion of the Haynes track and the baseball complex, and allowed the chamber to work with TSSAA to shore up spring fling coming to this community. Those tourism dollars, they're the best dollars you can, they're some of the best dollars you can bring into your community.
Well, so many of our students work, either whether they're high school students or university students, they work to pay their way or to keep going. And the Avenue and the Oaks and Stones River Mall and the downtown area, the traditional area, no matter where you walk into a restaurant or where you walk in for service, it's probably going to be a university student who's there serving you, learning the skills that they'll be able to take after they leave school and make an investment either in this community, which we hope they stay, or in another community where they may go.
You're right, Mayor, and in fact, when the Avenue opened up, I'm a tech gadget person, and I went to the Best Buy. And ended up talking to the manager, the general manager, and he was just raving about being in this community. He'd been with Best Buy for many years in many stores, and it was just maybe within a year of the Avenue being open, he was telling me that Best Buy had become kind of the #1 seller within all of the stores. And he was talking about, to your point, the opportunity when they looked at it and the corporate executives looked at this area, the university the availability of the students, that kind of seasonal workforce, and the opportunity to be a part of a community where you had a great school system, a great university, and a growing community. So you're absolutely right, and I think Dr. Gilbert touching on that partnership, that we all come together with the chamber, with the city, with the school system, to make this just a wonderful community that is very vibrant.
I want to mention something, John, and I think it goes back to what Roger talked about in looking ahead. Of course, when I got to be mayor, the only thing that worried me is I had 400 acres on that the city and the county weren't getting any taxes off of. It was off the tax rolls. But if you think of our interstate network and what we have, city fathers made a decision in the 50s that they only wanted 2 exits, even though Murfreesboro had 5 exits planned. So for 20 years we struggled with access to the interstate because the city fathers made the decision that going forward we were only going to have 2 interchanges. And now we have 6 or 7. And the good thing about that was that they forced us to look at the way we access the interstate, and instead of having 50-foot and 100-foot and 200-foot lots with curb cuts on it, we now have big developments, and we can access through single points of entry that make our road network work much more easily, less congestion, and give us the opportunity to see something that's well planned that will work for the future, as opposed to if we had opened up all 5 of those exits in the early 60s. Where would we be? How difficult would it be for us to access the interstate still today, even with that many interchanges?
Yeah, I remember driving up I-40 and looking at the exits that Cookeville had compared to what we had in those
Right,
days.
and Manchester. I mean, if you think about it, I think all the interstate planners did, the legislature I'm sure did, was they just took our interchanges and moved them up
very
the
well.
road. That's all they did.
Well, there was some lack of acceptance of some local businesses in those days of wanting the interstate.
Oh yeah, they didn't want it. Yeah,
That's
you're
right,
exactly
did not want
right.
it.
Right.
So that delayed us even getting it through Rutherford County, never mind having the exits.
Well,
on it.
I think our final section here from Davidson County in through Murfreesboro was opened in '72, something like that. When most everybody else had their exits in the '60s, early in the '60s.
Well, Paul Latture, president of the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce, is our other guest, and looks like to me you have everything worked out for you, and shouldn't be any problems in continuing this growth and expansion.
My motto is don't mess it up.
That's a good point.
I just want to thank everybody. I mean, all the things that you guys are talking about is absolutely set the stage for our city and, of course, the rest of our county to continue to prosper. You mentioned the interstate. Thank goodness we did get what we did. The development out here and certainly at the university, our education system here, it makes my job a lot easier. But if if a community doesn't have the leadership that's available to them, certainly you can look across the state in different different parts of the country, and you can see where leadership is lacking, and that's not the case here. This community, I've only been here 3 years now, so I guess I'm the rookie here, but certainly a vision has been set for this community. I think if you look at our changing economy and the things that we're looking at toward the future, the word, I hate to sound so redundant, but the word partnership is so key in our ability to compete in the future, because we literally compete every single day for jobs that are going out there, and when you have more of a global economy, you have more of the things that you're looking at. We've always got to look at what will put us at a competitive advantage over another entity. And we don't just compete against our neighbors. We're competing against people all across the country, and more you're seeing us compete against other countries now. And so that's certainly something that we're always trying to stay on the cutting edge of, and all the assets that we have here in Murfreesboro. And I'm going to talk about the university. About that's what's going to set us apart, I believe. And if you look at, we've gone from an agricultural-based economy back in the day, and then we've gone to some of the more basic and manufacturing, where now if you want to work at one of our facilities, it's very high tech. We've got to have the skill set, and we're working on making sure we're meeting those needs with our different partners. And if you look at what the things that might bring in the future, it could be the life sciences, it could be more medical research. Our medical community in Murfreesboro, as well as the entire county, has absolutely blossomed. So, we are close. I think it's a matter of if, but a matter of when we start attracting corporate headquarters. We've been so close on so many different times, and it's just a matter of time. And
Take care of that other acreage, won't it?
It would be helpful.
absolutely. But
We have spots. Please call.
Yeah. Paul, I've observed, I guess, the life cycle of industry. I guess I learned back in economics a few years ago, as I think about when we got General Electric, we had Chromalox, we had Samsonite. State Farm still here, the only one of that group still here, but those others have phased on out, either out of business or relocated. So it's a constant change, I guess, in that type of part of the economy.
no doubt. I mean, it's just it's like any other business cycle. You've got to stay on again the cutting edge of what it is your community is offering different companies. And I think one of our key missions is to make sure that our existing customers, the Pillsbury's of the world and the others that are here, we're taking care of them to make sure that they have a good business climate here in Murfreesboro and Rutherford County that's conducive for their growth. And that encompasses a lot of things, whether it be quality of life, continued infrastructure improvements, education, and we've got all those ingredients, and it's just a matter of us staying the course and making sure we're doing the right things to continue to foster jobs and
Very important when we have people who look at us, that they go around and talk to the people who are here to find out what kind of environment we've created for them. And if our folks are happy and still happy being here and see a future that's bright and prosperous, they'll share that with folks. And I think that's one of the significant things that we have to worry with long term is there is going to be more and more of a differentiation between the haves and the have-nots. And if we don't create an environment, and if we don't create a community of haves, then we'll end up being in the other category. and people will look at us and they will say, this is not where we want to go. And the discussions, the dissension in some ways that we have with so much media attention, you know, the traditional media is kind of going away. The business model doesn't work anymore when you had a monopoly, so to speak. And now there's so many voices in the media, paid and unpaid, that we really have to engage the public, whether it's in the business community, whether it's in government, whether it's in education, John. The engagement, the openness to make sure that people understand what the vision is, where we're going, why we have what we have today, and why we need it for tomorrow. I think that's one of the visions that we're all going to have to work with as a community.
I want to pick up on a point that Paul made, you know, as he talks about positioning this community in economic development for the future. Yes, indeed, he is right. You're no longer competing with your neighboring state. You're competing with companies, and we are training and educating our students to say, when you graduate, you know, 10, 20 years ago, you were competing for a job in one of the multinational companies or just in a company from students perhaps from Kentucky or from Florida, but you're no longer. You're competing with students from, you know, China, from Japan, from India. And so as to your earlier question, John, the future of our university, as we look at positioning this university in its next century and working with our partners in business and industry, we develop our curriculum, and as we develop the environment at the university, we are pushing this internationalization. We are pushing the university to get up to speed in its curriculum, and we're attracting more students from around the world, because that is where the competition is. It's where it is now. And as I travel abroad and I see what China is doing, what India is doing, and what other parts of the world as they position themselves for the future in terms of economic prosperity, that's what we need to be doing in our community. And that's how MTSU is also positioning itself to support this community.
Paul, I guess the most recent story is Amazon coming online in our community. What were some specifics that led Amazon to come here, or what did you do to attract them?
Well, it's funny you say Amazon and they're coming online, because they are an online retailer. You know, Amazon is going around the country putting in new fulfillment centers, and certainly this area was one of the areas they wanted to concentrate on for some of their key strategic planning in the future. We had the great opportunity to work with these guys. They're going to hire, looks like about 1,200 people to start, and I think that will go up seasonally as they get busy, and certainly be a great opportunity for a lot of different folks. But we, you know, again, all the things we've already mentioned, the infrastructure was there. All they had to do was come in and start building. And
that makes me think of Joe Jackson Parkway and where they're located, being ready for a company like that when they come.
Well, that whole area has exploded. We've had NHK seating, so it's a automotive supplier for mainly Nissan here in this area. And had those sites not been ready to go, we would more than likely lost out on that.
Nobody takes time to make a decision now. They want to do it now.
Right now.
They're ready to go.
It's interesting, John, and others. You know, the site selection process probably 10, 15 years ago was possibly a 4 to 6 month deal. Nowadays, 90 days could be the time frame in which you do.
So you really need to be ready for sure then.
Yeah, and then also all the information that is available to companies looking to come here is all online. And they have already done a lot of their research before they have gotten here, so a lot of times they know more about what's going on in your community, good or bad, and you know, they want to talk to you about it, but they get a good sense for that, and I think it's
I think we're going to have another meeting at Cracker Barrel to figure out where we're going next.
Another breakfast meeting.
Another breakfast meeting.
That reminds me of years ago when the folks from General Electric came into John Rucker's office, attorney here, and said they're interested in putting a plant here, and Judge Rucker started telling, he said, no, Judge Rucker, they just laid a big book down the table. So we know all about your community. We've studied you. So they've done a lot of research,
Absolutely.
but now it's much more quickly done.
It is quick.
Well, the same thing was when Nissan wanted to go into Smyrna. They wanted a storage tank for water. They wanted water lines. They wanted a 4-lane highway. They wanted interstate access. that wanted to be annexed into the city, that wanted a fire hall. And I think the funny story was that Mayor Ridley at the time says, "Oh, I think we can pass that on first reading Tuesday night."
Very true of Smyrna government.
It's just, and to think about a location like that today, you've got to be prepared in advance. You've got to be ready to go immediately. And it's almost like it has to be passed on first reading Tuesday night.
Right. As I recall, they, unlike many, already had the plan for the facility laid out, and it was a matter of finding the land to fit the plan.
To fit it,
And they put together about 3 pieces of property down there. And I know Governor Lamar Alexander at the time went around and sold those property owners on selling their property to make it happen.
Right. Well, I would say too that Nissan wanted a nice solid foundation, and if there are those companies that looking for that same
Found that
solid
limestone.
foundation,
Right
they
here.
can find it right here in Rutherford County and in Murfreesboro.
That's for sure. You mentioned tourism, it was mentioned earlier. That's a large part of what the Rutherford Chamber of Commerce does as well.
It is. Last year alone, we had a $230 million economic impact in tourism dollars.
Say that again?
A $230 million economic impact.
In 2011.
That's correct. And so we're continuing to increase that every year. Of course, our bread and butter has been the sporting events with the TSSAA, a lot of things that MTSU does and others. But we're also getting private events that are coming in for regional soccer tournaments, national soccer tournaments, and others, so we're excited about that. I think one thing that we are transforming into is a destination place for the business traveler, obviously with our conference center here and the ability for them to accommodate those business travelers. We're able to lure those folks in for 2, 3, 4-day conferences, and we're able to reap those benefits. And of course, that has a wave effect, if you will. It goes off into our
And
retail.
the equine facilities too, with
the Miller Arena.
Tennessee Miller, something there every week, sometimes all week long.
Yes.
And
people travel from all over the world there. Sometimes I stop in on events there, and I meet people from Germany, from just amazing the economic tourism.
In our cultural history, of course, the battlefield will have the 150th anniversary this year coming up. That'll be a huge event. We're expecting a large crowd.
Right.
And not to mention our musical heritage with Uncle Dave Making Days and those things that go on, and the music on the square, and those things are all attractive to different tourists.
And you're talking about some so-called free money there. You don't have to build schools for these folks that come in for 2 and 3 and 4 days, and they come in and spend money and enhance our economic growth here.
But, you know, as we attract new faculty, and we interview staff for our university, and the university the size of MTSU, each year we bring in a lot of new folks. This was thinking last week as I welcome our new faculty orientation, and I asked some of the folks, you know we got a great university. What else attracted you to this region? And the things that you mentioned, Paul, about this community. The opportunity to engage and be involved in the cultural activities, and our location. It was surprising to hear all the things that you mentioned, that these folks were coming from all over the country, all over the United States, and their first impression is just a very positive about being in this community. So there's a lot that we have to be proud of. And obviously, we need to continue to work to sustain and build on that, but there are a lot of assets we have in this community.
Dr. McPhee, you mentioned about the international area. You spent quite a bit of time this year and other years on travels to China and other countries in particular. How do you see that? What do you see in those countries that you visit that we're not doing or should be doing to be able to be competitive?
Well, it's interesting when you travel abroad. You get to see the other side, and they look at the United States as kind of the model, and they all want to come to the United States, and they all want to experience. And we've had partner universities from around the world come to this area and visited the fine schools, city schools and county schools, and they want to learn how we're doing it and how we are educating our students. But what I see when I go over there is the tremendous focus on education by the local governments or the provincial governments and the central governments, whether you're talking about China or you're talking about Japan or you're talking about India. Startling numbers of institutions that these countries are starting in the sciences. Last year, India developed about almost 30 new engineering schools, universities, colleges and universities. 3 of the universities we have partnership at MTSU. The provisional government has given those institutions billions of dollars, not an exaggeration, to build new campuses. And we had a delegation of principals and parents and kids that from Murfreesboro that went to China to see it and saw it. And it's just amazing. They see the future as they try to compete, and they see themselves chasing the United States of America, a great country. And they see the way that they can catch up with the United States is investing in education, investing in the school system, investing in the university system. That is the biggest difference that I've seen in my travels abroad.
Dr. Gilbert, what do you see as your biggest challenges for the future for the Murfreesboro City Schools?
Well, I think building on what Dr. McPhee has said, I think that we absolutely have to have children who can think, who can create, who can be innovative, because when you look at business, and certainly I'm not the knowledgeable person that you are about business, but to me the difference in a business that really succeeds and one that is mediocre is how creative can those folks be, how adaptive can they be, how well can they change with the times. So I want our children to not just know how to replace a light bulb, but to think about what happens if an entire city goes out without electricity. I want them to be able to expand. I think we'll see some of that coming in with Common Core. I think you're going to see more of a nationwide curriculum, and I don't have a problem with that. I think we need to help our children think deeper, though, and that creativity and innovation, that love of learning, we have to be sure that we're creating.
Let me ditto that, because just 2 weeks ago I was in a discussion, an invited discussion by Governor Haslam. He's traveling around the state asking business leaders what do they want and expect and need from the educational system, particularly higher education. He's focusing on higher education. But what Dr. Gilbert said just a week ago, a week and a half ago in Nashville with the top executives from Nissan and all Bridgestone, all the other, that's exactly what they said. They said, you know, we as a company, we will do the job in teaching them how to change the light bulb or the technical part. What we want and what we're not getting from the state, students who can think, who can be creative and innovative, and who can analyze. And so you are absolutely right. That is the message, the clear message that business and executives and our partners in the industry are saying they want from the school system.
Elaborate a bit more on Common Core. Is it obvious what that is? Is that everybody teaching the same things the same way?
The saying has been that Tennessee has never seen a standard that it didn't like. In other words, we want to teach kids about everything to an equal level. And what I think we have to realize is some things are more important for children to learn than others. And if we're going to, what we want to do is move our children from being able to answer 2 + 2. We want that, yes, but we want them to be able to apply that, because what we know is our children are going to have to face situations that we have not faced. So instead of having one skill and one discipline, we want them to have a depth of knowledge in the disciplines, so that when they face those situations that they've never faced before, they're able to take everything they know and put it together to solve new problems. The issues that we're facing here in this community now, our forefathers built a foundation for that, but they could not have foreseen, I'm sure, this area and what it is. They could not foresee MTSU and what it would become, but yet we're dealing with that. So if we don't prepare our children now for being able to really have a diversity of thinking and to be able to solve problems that are unknown, then we will be in trouble.
Mayor, what are your biggest challenges as mayor of the city of Murfreesboro now, you and the council?
I think public safety,
Okay.
obviously, is something. If we don't have a safe community, then we're in trouble. So public safety, whether it be our police, our fire and rescue department, whether it be those things, emergency services that we have, because we've had tornadoes, we've had floods. I mean, obviously we have to deal with that, and I hope we've established a good record, but we want to be prepared in the future for that. The second thing is access, whether it be information access, whether it be transportation access. We've got to be prepared to keep this community open where people can find it, where they can travel around it, where they can understand it, because it's an information age, and because if we're too congested, you cannot get around and people are not going to want to be here. So the access has got to be there. I think recreation has got to be something that we've got to keep looking forward to. And whether it's the recreation of tourism, whether it's the recreation in parks, or whether it's the recreation in the institutional activities the university has, or those things that the city parks and recreation do, well, those have got to be things that have got to be foremost and forefront. Mm-hmm. And then the education side of it, the city's preparedness to support the educational institutions and entities that we have that prepare our students not only, but also prepare our university to meet the challenges of the future. And then one of the things that we're looking at as a city is making a donation to make sure that the science building gets built in a timely fashion, that we participate. Paul talked about the tourism being $230 million in investment every year. I think the university is somewhere between $800 million and $1 billion in economic each year. So 4 times what a tourist is, and we get to know those students, and a lot of them want to stay here. So public safety, access, the recreational things that we have, and I'm sure there are other things that are very important, but that and the infrastructure. But you've got to have water, you've got to have clean air, you've got to have electricity, output and input. I mean, you've just got to maintain those things that make a community viable, because the minute one of those things stops, you lose a whole part or a portion of the whole. And that's what we've got to look at from an infrastructure. And I really thank Roger for what he's done in the 20 years plus the 8 or so years he was on the council before that, and being able to have those services extended out where people today know where they're going to go. I mean, they can follow those out and say, right there's where I want to go, and everything's there and prepared for me. That was a tremendous vision that he and the councils before me had.
You mentioned the economic impact of MTSU. I don't think the general public really has an idea what that impact is to this community.
Some of the businesses on that side of town do, because they know when there's graduation, they know their business is going to fall off until there is an incoming class.
And the traffic drops off and changes.
You know, John, it never ceases to amaze me the number of calls I get from surrounding communities as they, and I've talked to Paul about this and his predecessor, as they try to attract business and industry. They try to use the fact that MTSU is around the corner as part of their selling, because of the not only the educational piece, but the economic impact.
John, I want to ask Roger, and I want him to tell me how many different state and federal agencies he had to work with to prepare Murfreesboro for the future. I mean, you could start with the Corps of Engineers and the Veterans Administration, and just...
Mayor, you literally all of them. Other than the armed services. and there were times in some of those meetings we probably needed them in to calm the situation, but no, EPA. 40 years ago, EPA was not on the radar. Mm-hmm. When you look at the changes in the federal government, the rules, regulations, stipulations that they place on states, counties, and cities, and I use this many times. I said, you know, when you're at a city level, you're at the low end of that's the bottom rung on the ladder. There's nothing lower than a city. Everything is bigger than a city. But the climate has changed at the national level. The requirements they've placed on the states, and the states have placed on local governments, whether it be education, whether it be environment, no matter what. We virtually had to go through all the hoops and projects that 30 years ago, from inception to completion, or from conception to the opportunity to use that road or sewer project or whatever, might take 2 or 3 years. Now it takes 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Middle Tennessee Boulevard.
That's a prime
That's a good example
It's a
right
good
there.
example of that. Funding for that we got about 8, 9 years ago. City's working very well with us and ready to go. We're still waiting.
And all that equates to money.
Yep.
The longer it takes, the more money. You make estimates today thinking it's going to cost so much to do something. By the time you get it done, people say, well, why did it cost more? Well, you're in the next decade. John, one of the things that I would encourage the mayor of Murfreesboro and of Rutherford County to do would be something that we haven't had to do in the past in this community, in this city, and that is to be prepared, Paul, for that next opportunity of large development. The industries that you mentioned a moment ago that aren't here today, that were here when I was a young boy. The road network, Mayor, the Dixie Highway, it used to come around the square.
Oh, boy.
Maple Street used to be Old Lebanon Road.
State Route 10.
I grew up on the old Nashville Highway. It wasn't the old Nashville Highway when I grew up on it. It was US 41.
That's right.
From Chicago to Miami. I would encourage the city, county, utilities to start the process yesterday of finding that 6, 8, 900, 1,200 acre tract that can be put together. So when those industries do come into this community and start looking, that you're ready for them to build on, because they're not going to wait. They're not going to give you an opportunity to say, well, we can move it through the...
Yeah, let us gen it up quickly.
You go acquire the land, and then we'll take the next 6 months moving it through the planning stages and the rezoning stages. And there's too much coordination that has to be done. And again, if that process had started yesterday, it'd be late.
I think that was one of the problems a few short years ago when we had a corporate headquarters likely to move here. We really weren't ready for them, didn't have the site ready. I think it turns out they decided to stay in the state where they were, but that might have made a difference in their decision.
John, I was fortunate. I spent 28 years on the Industrial Development Board, and we saw that a number of times, and it became more frequent that we just weren't ready for them. They were ready to make a decision, and they liked what they saw in this community, but we didn't have a place for them to go, and we didn't get them.
Dr. McPhee, I guess Mayor Bragg mentioned about the $1 million that the city of Murfreesboro is planning to contribute for the financing of the science building. State funding has changed so in the last several years. It really has a real impact on higher education, particularly capital outlay projects.
It really has, and we are in uncharted territory here. This is the first time, I think, in the history of the state that for just a basic academic building, the state is saying that we're not going to fund it all. You need to go out and find private funds and student fees to do that. Now, certainly, I will say we're very grateful at MTSU that we have this facility, and the governor and the legislature appropriated the funds, but it really does put an added dynamics into that. Now, we are reviewing the situation. We've been getting a lot of good response from our donors and our supporters in meeting the match, and we will meet the match, but these are difficult times. There's a point of hope here, though. In discussions with Governor Haslam, he has actually acknowledged, I think it was the first governor since I've been around in the 18 years now in this state, that is saying that we need to begin to look at how we are funding higher education. We have not done a good job. He's gone on record in saying that the state has to begin to reinvest into higher education, because an educated community leads to improved job prospects and support the industry of the future. So I'm very hopeful that we will see a change in that attitude from our state leaders.
Dr. Gilbert, do you anticipate additional expansion of facilities? I know you just did an addition to Hopgood School.
We're already looking at building another school on the west side of town. Pittard on the north side of town is overcrowded. Of course, we'll go through rezoning, I'm sure, with the new school. But we did have unexpected growth this year, and with that comes not just with the building, but also with the buses and with personnel. So we expect to continue to grow.
Well, this has been a wonderful discussion about where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. Paul Latture, what's next on the horizon for the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce as we sort of wind down?
Well, I think we got to look to the future. I think our key component for continued growth is going to be our workforce. We're hearing it all day, every day, that we've got to have the qualified. Our technology is changing, so we are addressing that head on. Going to be having a workforce development summit on October the 30th to invite policymakers, to educators, as well as industry folks to let's map out a vision for our future. So if we're going to be successful in the future, which we will be, it's going to have to be through a higher level of our folks in the workforce, and I think we'll get there.
Roger, you say it's tougher and tougher to get it done. Would you do it all over again?
Certainly.
I'm sure you would.
Murfreesboro is the center of the universe.
Amen. Dr. McPhee, any closing remarks about what the future for MTSU holds?
Certainly. I'd like to add to Paul's point about the focus on a skilled workforce. We do have a wonderful community college, Motlow State Community College, in our area, along with the Technology Center, and that is just doing a fabulous job. They have some incredible statistical success with job placement and dealing with the technical areas. I just see a greater partnership between MTSU and the community college and the technology center. One that's very exciting, Paul. We are working now on developing a degree program at 3 levels in megatronics that deals specifically with the needs of business and industry. A certificate level 1 with the technology center, certificate level 2, an associate degree with Motlow, and then a bachelor's degree in that area from MTSU, all designed around the needs of the business and industry that will address a critical need. And so I only see that being further strengthened and being a major focus as we work together for the betterment of this community.
Dr. Gilbert, closing comments from you as far as Murfreesboro City Schools?
Well, I think Roger said it well when he said that Murfreesboro is the center of the universe, and that center starts with children.
Very good.
So that's our focus.
Mayor Tommy Bragg, congratulations on a very fine bicentennial observance for the city of Murfreesboro.
It was exciting, and it will be exciting for years to come. I always say Murfreesboro, like many cities, is a neighborhood of neighborhoods. And you see the neighborhoods that we have, and we're very proud of them. And we want them to continue to be not only economically viable, but friendly, safe places with good access, good recreational, good educational opportunities, and places where their kids can stay at home and go to work at home and raise their families and grandkids, which we've all found to be wonderful things, grandkids.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the vision that we want for tomorrow. We've got to work together as neighbors, understanding each one's personal interests, but trying to get along and to make sure that we open that access, we have those opportunities that'll make this the great place that we enjoy today for our children and our children's children.
Well, thank you all for this fine discussion of the future. Dr. Sidney McPhee, the 10th president of Middle Tennessee State University, Dr. Linda Arms Gilbert, the director of the Murfreesboro City Schools, Paul Latture, president of the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce, Roger Haley, past city manager for Murfreesboro, former member of the Murfreesboro City Council, and our mayor, the Honorable Tommy Bragg. We hope to continue the Bicentennial series or a similar series on city cable TV in the future, talking with others who are very much a part of our community. Thank you for joining us for this final in the Bicentennial Storyteller series for City TV.